someone in the USA there.
Oh yes, yeah. What did he say? Yeah, so Down and Ruth have said, we're so happy to join this event. We were looking forward to it. We live in the US, yeah. That's lovely. Welcome, everybody. And Ben says, good evening, everyone. So the gentleman I just sent the link to hasn't yet logged on, but hopefully will in a second. And then I think we're ready to go. I probably should mention to you, Ray, that Renee is joining us again, who was of the script continuity for New Avengers. She joined us last time. She's also logged on to, so Renee's in the audience, and also Sid Child is joined us as well. So Sid's watching along as well.
Oh, Sid.
Yeah, she's joined us.
So Sid can hear me now, right?
Sid can hear you, yeah.
Hello, Sid. Nice to hear you. Haven't seen you since the Chichester Doom.
That was a great event, wasn't it?
Yes, it was one of the best that I've done. I've done a lot of those, not only for the Avengers, for other shows. You know, I've done so many different shows. Quincy was one of the last ones I did. Then Space 1999 and Man from U.N.C.L.E. Yeah. Man from U.N.C.L.'s always big.
Oh yeah. It's one of my favourite TV shows, definitely. So Sid has said, hi Ray, good to see you again. Sid, kiss.
Who's that?
Sid. Sid just said hello.
Oh, okay, got it.
So you say you haven't seen each other since 10 years ago, the Chichester event?
Yeah, true.
I don't know how Sid would feel about it, but I'll bring her on later and you could see her video to video if you would like to have a quick face-to-face reunion, but if you would like to.
We're okay. Oh, you guys will be going to bed then?
Well, I'm sure we'd be fascinated to see you guys together. So if you did want to, and obviously if Sid wanted to do that, we'd be happy to, if you would like to, of course, Ray, and Sid, of course. We'll watch the episode and go for the questions, and then if you guys do want to have a little meetings, by all means. So I think we're pretty much ready to go now. Check the gentleman that was having some trouble has now joined us.
The last time when we did targets, I forgot to mention Dennis Spooner, who wrote that.
Oh, yeah.
Because Dennis wrote a lot of stuff. And also, as I told you during the show, he gave me one of my first breaks as a writer, Dennis.
Oh, yes.
He was a great guy, absolute great guy. He came over and stayed with me in LA for a while. And the writer of Tonight Show, Lee Vance, he came out to America about 10 years after I went and tried to make his way out there, but it didn't really work out for him. And then sadly, he passed away.
Oh, sorry.
In Los Angeles, in actual fact.
Oh, right. Well, you had some great writers on the Avengers, didn't you? And that's obviously hard.
Brilliant writers. All tongue-in-cheek writers.
Yeah, I imagine not everybody could write for something like the Avengers, because you say it was very specialised. So I think that's probably why Brian rewrote a lot of the scripts, probably just to sort of give it that touch that the show needed, really.
Well, as the producer and the script editor on the show, he did adjust things, but very little, because most of the writers knew the Avengers and knew you really had to push your tongue well out in your cheek to do those shows. I mean, as well as the directors and the actors that came in. As I said last week, they were all in the mood for the Avengers, and when they came into it, they knew the format and they knew how it worked. And it's different from doing Danger Man to the Avengers, a completely different way of acting and a way of looking upon a script for us writers and as directors.
Yeah, definitely. Just had a message from Elaine. Hello, Raymond. It's Elaine here, Dennis's daughter. Thank you for your kind words as ever about my dad. Kiss, kiss.
Very, very. They're meant, every one of them. God bless him. I loved him. I loved him very much. And as he knows, and I've said so many times, I owe a lot to young Dennis Spooner.
Yeah, I must admit, whenever I'm watching some classic TV either on DVD or on like ITV4 or the show or the stations that repeat these wonderful shows, whenever Dennis Spooner comes up, I know I'm in for a good one. So,
well, I did. The other one I did with him was Department S and Randall and Hopkirk.
Oh yes.
I mean, I wrote one of my first scripts was Randall and Hopkirk. That's how murder snowballs. That Dennis gave me the break on doing that, and that Andre and all those welcomed me as a young new director, and they were as good as gold. They were lovely actors to work with, Mike Pratt and everybody. They just they took me under their wing and let me direct them, and it was wonderful.
So what inspired them to give you a chance to write a script, or did you approach them about it?
No, Dennis knew I wanted to write. Dennis knew I wanted to write. And I said I had an idea for a show. And he said, what's the name of the show? I said, that's how murder snowballs. He said, write it. So I wrote it, and away we went. And that was one of my first scripts.
I must admit, from your books that you've done, and obviously me and my wife are working through your collected works as we speak. I think she's got a book she's reading in the next room of yours. One thing that strikes me is how good your titles are. So they're always very sort of grab you from the first instance. So if anybody isn't aware that Ray does write novels, then they are available on Amazon to buy. I have got a few here just to sort of plug them as per usual. So we've got Home of the Holiday that my wife has just finished, which is really, really excellent book. I think she's put a review of that on Amazon. Love Loves a Mystery, again, a really good one. And she's very keen to get started with Keep Running or Die. And again, brilliant title. So I'm sure that's...
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Lovely. I hope you like the books. They're good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my wife really loves them. And I haven't really had too much time to sort of get myself into them yet, but I will very soon. No one's ever sort of suggested that they adapt it to TV or film or any sort of ambitions in that regard?
Well, I've never had a bite. I also wrote 3 books under the title Buford Sloane Mystery, which my lead character was an actor called Wilfred Brimley. And it nearly went to a TV show, a TV series with Lorimar, but it fell through at the last minute. I don't know why. It happens. You got to be in the right place at the right time and be very lucky.
Oh yeah.
But hey, you never know. Some of your audience reading one of those books may decide to become producers and decide to do it. I don't know.
Oh, you never know. I mean, things like the new Doctor Who series, ever since that came back, it's run and written by and directed by people who were fans of the original show. So
yeah.
It's very possible, isn't it? But I don't think people realise with how much TV and content is out there, how difficult it is probably to get something made in the first place. You know, how I think 99 fails. Oh,
it's very difficult. And since I was directing all the time and that, it's a new world. It's a young person's world out there. It's a totally new world. I went to a pitch meeting not so long ago, and I swear I sat round a table with the executives, and they all looked your age, 12 years old. I mean, it was scary when you walk into a room with all the experience that myself and my partner at that stage, Michael Sloan, the great American writer, wrote so many series and produced them, and I've directed many of them. you know, we have so much experience that you go into a room and you sit there with, God forbid me saying it, like children sitting around looking at you, and you mention something from the past, like Ray Milland, and they look at you and say, Ray Milland, who's Ray Milland? No one knows anything. You know, they don't know. We're in a different lifetime. Different lifetime.
Oh yeah, I think so. Definitely. I mean, we might have come across. You might. I have got obviously quite a few questions coming through from the attendees, and I think one question does come out that very thing of how the industry is different and changed since the 60s. So we might sort of come across that question as we go. So I think we're now all logged in and ready to start. So I just want to say to everybody that's joined us, thank you very much for joining us for this evening's watch along of All Done with Mirrors with the wonderful and multi-talented Raymond Austin. Obviously, I think everyone's familiar with Raymond's credits, but I'll just list a few off for those that might not be too familiar with his work. Obviously, directing episodes in the event of the original Avengers, How Guns Will Haggle, and obviously many episodes of New Avengers, including Target. We've already mentioned TV series like Department S. I think you also did the Champions, Ramp Up Deceased. You appeared as a stuntman or stunt ranger on shows like The Saint, and then obviously lots of American television as well. I think you're saying where you've done 300 hours of TV in your career, which is obviously very, very impressive. Is there any particular highlights of your career, sort of projects that you would have liked me to have mentioned, or you know, your favourite shows that you'd recommend to people to watch?
No, as I said before, or last week, and I've said many times, they're all my favorite shows. Since I entered the industry as a stuntman many years ago, and up till now, I've never been to work a day in my life. I've never been to work. It's always been an adventure every day. I've never woke up in the morning and said, oh, I don't want to go to work today. I've always wanted to go to work. It's always been exciting. I had so many toys to play with every day. I'm a very, very, very lucky man. Very lucky man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all wish we could say the same thing, and some of us can and some of us can't. But it's lovely to be able to pursue your dream, and it's also your livelihood as well. So that's fantastic. So we're just about to start the episode. So hopefully everybody's got their episode, whether it be streaming, DVD or Blu-ray. I've got the DVD copies. I think probably most people are going to have. So if we would just want to all line up on the Avengers in Colour, which is the opening frame of the episodes, I'll just give people 30 seconds or so just to get to that point, and then we'll all press play.
Just before you start, can I?
Yeah, right, of course.
I would like to say that in this episode, you will see what is known as the longest stair fall in history by a stuntman.
Oh yes.
And that was by Joe Dunn, was my stunt coordinator. When I became second unit director, I promoted Joe Dunn as to do the stunt coordinator. And in this show, he falls down the lighthouse stairs.
Oh yeah.
And I keep cutting away to another scene, then I come back and he's still falling down. But for the fun for the audience, that staircase was only 15 feet. And we kept using the same piece of staircase, all the way through the show. But sort of gone down for the fun of it as the longest stair fall in history.
Yeah.
Joe would appreciate that, you know, because it was a fun thing he did. It was a funny thing. Up the stairs again, Joe, down the stairs again, up again, down again. And I think I wanted about 12, 14 cuts of it.
Because I assume that's a fairly, well, might be considered a fairly mundane stunt to fall downstairs, but I take it it's like every stunt, very carefully planned, and falling a certain way is not to hurt yourself.
Oh yeah, he's still got to know how to fall and take the chances of getting banged up and bruised. But as I say, the funny thing about it was only 15 feet of stairs, and he kept coming round the corner, but it was the same piece of stairs. Just an interesting thing about the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it is, as I say, edited and directed in such a way that it is obviously, you know, completely seamless.
Right, I stopped boring you guys and let you watch.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go. So hopefully everybody's ready to start. So we'll all pause on the Avengers in colour with Steve's bolo and the sword behind that title card. So I'll just do a little countdown from 5, and then we'll all press play. It doesn't matter if we're just a few seconds out. We're just using it mainly for reference as a point for our conversation. I'm sure we'll probably go off on various tangents anyway. So okay, so so Janet just asked how to get the episode. So you unfortunately, Janet, I can't actually show the episode on this Zoom because of copyright issues. So it's only available on DVD, Blu-ray, and I think Amazon you can buy it. So obviously we'll start the episode, and but you might be able to sort of catch up if you want to get it off Amazon. But generally speaking, we're just, I don't think you're going to affect you too much if you can't actually see the episode. So, but I'm sure we'll manage it just fine. Okay, so everyone ready? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play. Okay, so again, these are very good titles, Ray, obviously with the knights in the armor. Do you know kind of how this sort of came about as an idea?
Brian Clements again. Brian Clements again. Steve was a knight in shining armor. He was the Avenger.
Yes, very fitting, isn't it, for his character?
Yeah.
I did want to start with one question that has come in. This is a question from Lyndon. I think it's a very good one to start us off with. Obviously, this was the last series of the original Avengers, and it was plagued with quite a lot of drama behind the scenes with Brian Clements and Albert Fennell essentially being fired from the show, new people coming in, a few episodes done with Linda, wasn't working, Albert and Brian came back in. Did you have much awareness of this at the time? Did this affect the crew? What was that like?
Yeah, we were all aware of it because it was all our jobs. It was our work, and were we going to have to go look to new shows, new jobs? Was the Avengers going to carry on?
Yeah.
And it did carry on. I mean, thanks to Brian and Albert coming back in and Linda sticking it out. I mean, because Linda had a hell of a job coming in there, like indeed, as I said last week, with Purdy, with Joe Lumley. She had to take over a running part. Or Linda came in after taking over from the top one, which is Diana Rigg. So she had a hell of a thing in front of her. Everybody's judging her against Diana Rigg, which they shouldn't have done. They judge her under her own merit. And God forbid, she proved it. She stayed it and she stuck her guns, as many as, I think it was some management of the other that didn't want her in there. I think Brian and Albert were hesitant at the beginning, but she grew on us. I mean, all of us. I was lucky. I was one of the first to be able to direct her, and she was as good as gold. I had no problem at all. No problem at all. I think she came in with a director that didn't work very well, or a producer that didn't work very well with ABC. And then Brian and Albert were asked to come back, and they put things together and worked things out for her. And she listened, and away she went. But she carved her own place. She carved her own place.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And for her to stick with it, given all that change in what was, very early point in her career, must have been very very difficult for her indeed to sort of deal with all those changes. Because I don't know whether if Brian and Albert had been in that early point, whether they would have cast Linda. Perhaps they would have done. I'm not sure, but I know they obviously changed her look quite drastically, didn't they? From
I don't understand. Say that again.
I was just saying that they changed Linda's look quite drastically, didn't they, from what had been shot before Albert and Brian came in. So obviously there was never a question of them not using Linda, but I suppose they just wanted to
Oh, listen, Linda Thorson met all the criteria of what the Avengers woman should be, without any shadow of doubt. It's just that Diana Rigg did it first.
Yeah.
I mean, and Linda came in and had to do a second up, which she did. She, as I say, she met all the criteria. All the fight stuff that I didn't do it with Linda because I'd already employed Joe Dunn to be the stunt arranger, but under the same guise with Kung Fu and that. She was straight in there. And she used to do more rolling around and dives than Diana Rigg used to do. Not for any reason that Di wouldn't do them. They just never came up in my fights.
Yeah.
In Joe's fights, Joe put Linda to the test by rolling over up onto her feet and all that. It all worked beautiful. There's no question about it that I enjoyed working with her. So did everybody else. It was just management that had problems going in, but they soon ate their words and kept quiet, and we went along very, very nicely until we had to end.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think some of my favourite episodes are in this series with Linda. So I agree, she fits the bill perfectly. I wanted to discuss the putting Mother in the swimming pool at the beginning of the episode. I think, did you say last time that was your idea too?
That was Brian and my idea.
Yeah.
Because first of all, we had him on a bus, on a double-decker bus. I think it was first that we had that. And it was just one of those things. Well, what else can we do that's tongue-in-cheek and fun for the Avengers and fun to the Avengers? Let's put a floating desk in the pool. Let him be in the pool. Okay, great, Brian said. Away we went. No question. No question without, oh, wait a minute. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. We went with it. As I said, going back to my previous conversation, that's the Avengers. It was tongue-in-cheek and Mother worked from a desk in the swimming pool when he wanted to.
Yeah, it works. It works perfectly in the Avengers world. Obviously, one of the most notable things about this episode, obviously, that is Patrick McNee taking a back seat in this one. Was that just to give him a well-earned break, or?
What? Say again?
I was just wondering why Patrick McNee was taking a bit of a back seat in this episode, whether he was just taking some well-earned rest, or?
No, he was in LA. He came back and picked up. He went back to not LA, he went to Palm Springs, Los Angeles. He wanted to come back late and asked for a few more days. So therefore, Brian worked it round so he didn't have so much to do in that one and gave him time to recuperate to come back and join us.
Yeah, lots of similar shows seem to do similar things, and obviously it gives Linda the chance to shine in her own episode as well. I take it she probably relished having such a meaty role in this episode.
Yeah, well, it was her episode. I mean, definitely her episode. And I don't know why people say things about the changeover with Linda and that. It was a natural process, as I say, except for the fact that Diana Rigg had done it first. I mean, a lot of shows, you take a lot of shows we shot out in America that actually failed because the person who came in couldn't cope with the reputation of the one before them.
Yeah.
I mean, Bionic Woman, we tried that twice. No one ever did it, could get there like Linda Carter. Not Linda Carter. I've forgotten her name. Forgive me, everyone.
That's right. I'm sure it'll come to us.
I just saw someone come up and say something here. Let me just look at it. I've got to put glasses on to see it. Ray, do you have memories of Johnny Huff? He was shooting second unit on this point. I know what they're talking about. One of my favorite scenes in the show of All Done with Mirrors. Yeah, I can see what this person says. I'd rather you read them out to me, but because I have to focus. One of my favorite scenes of that is the scene on the cliff shooting through the glasses as the guy goes over the cliff. And it's one of the best scenes in the show. But I never shot that. My second unit director, Johnny Huff, shot that show. That's scene. He went down to the coast to do it because I was back. And he wasn't copying Peter Hammond. Peter Hammond always, when he directed shows like Morse and that, would always be shooting through glass, through mirrors, reflections, through a goblet or whatever. At times he used to drive me insane. He's a good director, but it used to drive me insane because I wasn't sure who was looking left and who was looking right or whatever. But Johnny Huff never copied Peter Hammond doing that. Johnny Huff did it after reading the script and realizing the show was all done with mirrors. It's about reflections. So he designed that scene and did that shot through the spectacles in the grass.
Yeah.
Because that was part of the story theme. It wasn't anything to do with Peter Hammond. Johnny Huff's had his own brain, which he always did. He always, when he did second unit for me, always shot good stuff and no problem at all. So that scene was one of my favorite scenes in my show, was not directed by me.
In terms of, because obviously there's lots of, well, every episode of the Avengers has a very stylistic way of directing. Is a lot of it from the scripts, or is it kind of you and Brian then adding these, or the sort of, the quirky touches to the episode?
No. It was you usually stuck to your script unless there was a problem with the Avengers. If there was a problem, then you would sort it out yourself if Brian wasn't there. But let's not forget what the actors brought to the Avengers. The actors got the scripts, they read the scripts, knowing, as I said earlier, that it was an Avengers and it's a tongue-in-cheek show.
Yes.
So they brought things to it themselves, their own characterization to a character. We used some of England's most talented character actors in that show over those years. And all these people like Bernard Cribbins and people like that, and John LeMessurier, they all brought their own thing to the performance. So as a director, you virtually found your camera angles, made sure your tempo was right, and the show would go together. But the actors nearly always gave you the scene. It was always them who thought of things and come up with a way of playing it. And Brian and I and other directors, I wish we had fantastic directors, they would either accept it the way they brought it up and wanted to play it, or they'd say, no, I'd say no, I don't like that, which was very seldom I ever said it, because they always came up with great stuff. Julian Glover and that. They were great actors. They would come up with their own interpretation of the character which Brian had written. So your answer to the question is, we nearly always stick to the script, always stuck to that script.
Yeah, when the writing is so good and you've got actors that are so good, I guess it makes your job quite easy, really, in comparison to other shows. This was Lee Vance who wrote the script for this one. Do you remember Lee at all?
Lee Vance?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very well. Very well. I knew Lee very well. I first knew Lee at Boreham Wood when we were doing the Saints and those sort of shows and the Avengers. And Lee, when I went out to America after I'd been out there about 8 or 9 years or something or the other, suddenly I get a phone call saying, "Hi, this is Lee." He'd moved out there to work on something or the other. I think it was Crazy Like a Fox for Quinn Martin. And he was doing quite well out there with the writing, but then sadly he got ill and he died. I think he was about 56 years of age or something like that. He died a very young man.
Very shame.
Yeah, good writer.
Yeah, they say this is one of the strongest Avengers episodes. Obviously,
you take the fantastic directors, which I learned my craft off of there in ABCP Studios or Danziger Studios. All these great directors you got Sidney Hayes, Charlie Crichton, Roy Ward Baker, Les Norman. There were so many directors that I'd learned my craft off of, and cameramen. They were the cream of television. They did all the television shows. They were absolutely marvelous men, John Krish. The list goes on. Charlie Crichton was one of the best directors there ever was in film, even.
Yeah.
He was nominated for an Oscar at the end of his life, sadly, for I think it was A Fish Called Wanda. Which they already dumped the movie. They decided it was no use. But Charlie went in and edited it because Charlie started off as an editor.
Yeah.
I think the first picture he edited, which was a great success, was Passport to Pimlico.
Oh, right, yes.
But Charlie Crichton was a brilliant director. Roy Ward Baker, incredible director. It was they were all there, all along. They were so good. Sidney Hayes, I learned so much of Sidney Hayes. It's not true. I mean, he started off as an editor. All these people taught me my craft there, and the cameramen. I mean, the cameramen there, Frankie Watson and Paul Beeson. I mean, it was incredible. Incredible.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful, way to receive an education in filmmaking. Definitely, Leslie Norman is one of my favourite directors. So, and I say Charlie Crichton as well.
Yeah.
We've got the fight scene now with Linda and the very very well built gentleman with the big bushy beard. Do you remember filming that at all?
Yes. The giant.
Yes, I'm assuming Sid did a certain amount of this work on this one.
Yeah, that's Joey Dunn did those fights. As I say, because he was my fight director then, because I'd moved up the ladder, and Johnny Huff was my second unit director.
We did have one question come in, which I think. So we're just getting so many questions through. David said the lighting reflection shots in the episode are fantastic. Were they difficult to get those right?
No, not at all. And also special effects did a lot of it.
Because I take it, like most of the episodes we were talking about, it was a 2-week turnaround, and that was absolutely fine for the effects on this one.
I saw the note about Kung Fu. All right. In the Guinness Book of Records, with Diana Rigg, was the first person to bring Kung Fu to the screen. No one had heard of Kung Fu until I brought it to the screen. Then a company in America came out with a show called Kung Fu. But they had something which I never had the brains to think of when I did it. They did the Kung Fu in slow motion.
Oh, yeah.
I only wish that I'd have suggested to Brian and everything when I first started arranging that we'd have done our fights with Diana Rigg and Linda and Joe Lumley in high-speed camera, slow motion. It would have been, Diana Rigg would have been fantastic at slow motion. But I didn't think of that. The Kung Fu show in America, which again was with Michael Sloan, they thought of it first and they did it. And it was a great success, as you know. But I was the first one to actually bring it to the screen.
I mean, so much of the Avengers was sort of revolutionary, wasn't it, for the time? We were talking about last time, the fact that you had a woman that was a co-lead for the first time, and she was doing the fights and the action, and wasn't just being there somebody to be rescued. So it was obviously groundbreaking in so many ways. Well,
as I said last time, I mean, a lot of your viewers at the moment, I don't want to bore them again, but as I said last time, Brian Clements caused and offered the emancipation of women in television. He was the first person ever to do it in the world, was to put the woman in there kicking ass rather than the man. Steed took a back seat to Diana. Diana led operations. She led investigations. She fought the villains like Linda did, like Joe Lumley did. But Brian did this for women, about women, and it was marvelous. It didn't. No other writer and company had ever dared do it up until then.
No. I think I will have one criticism of this episode, if I may, is just probably the end of the episode, where obviously Linda has dispatched all the villains in the lighthouse, but it takes her male, helper in this episode to defeat, to actually save Linda at the end of the episode. But I imagine that's probably what Steve would have done, and that's probably. But part of me would have perhaps liked Linda to have been completely independent, have actually done it completely herself, but maybe that's just through a modern audience point of view.
You can't do that. It's called the Avengers.
Yeah.
And they're both the Avengers, so they share and do things. You can't do that in a show, you know. You do a show called Zorro, it's about Zorro.
Oh yeah,
it's not about the other people in the show.
Yeah, but I suppose because this one doesn't have Patrick in it that much.
Well, as I told you, the reason Patrick wasn't in that episode so much because he'd stayed at home after asking the favor from Brian and Albert to let him off part of the show.
Yeah.
There was nothing to do with anything else. There was no hidden agenda for Patrick in that. And he and Linda got on like a house on fire.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they worked perfectly well. There was never any problem.
Yeah. Because obviously, the guy we're looking at now, who obviously is the stand-in for Steed, obviously, it seems like the script was written for Patrick, and then the other guy came in and took over that. Whereas I suppose if you had like months and months, you could perhaps have made it more Linda centric, even more than it is. But that's just me being very critical. What are your memories of the cast of this episode? Obviously, got to have people like Peter Copley, Edwin Richfold, Michael Trubshaw. Any of these names ring a bell?
Michael Trubshaw, yeah, but Michael Trubshaw was a gentleman, ex-RAF type. He always worked. Any picture what David Niven did, Michael Trubshaw worked on. They were great friends, him and Niv.
Yeah.
Michael Trubshaw was a gentleman, another man. They were all good. All the people on that show. You know, I can't remember all of them well, I do remember most of them. Of course I do. Everybody was very good on that show. A great character actor we had in there. I can't remember his name. Oh, beautiful character actor.
Yeah.
What was the cast? Run me. You got the cast?
Yeah, I've got some of them down. So it was Dinslade Landon was
Nice man. Yeah.
Steve's sort of stand-in. Peter Copley.
Peter Copley, great character actor. He did a lot of Dickens and a lot of things. He's a beautiful actor, beautiful character actor.
Well, I mean, also with Dinslade Landon coming in to do the Steed role, how did he find sort of stepping into a very successful show like this?
Say again. You're breaking up with me. A lot of problems, so forgive me.
I was saying that obviously Linda's co-star, Dinslade Landon, who plays Whitney, he does a very fine job in this episode. What was it like for him coming in and basically replacing Patrick for a week?
Oh, again, you know, I keep repeating myself, and I don't wish to be a bore to people, but the actors used to fall into place on that show. And as a director, you virtually just put the cameras on them. I mean, he was as good as gold. I've worked with him twice before that, and I've worked with him as a stuntman.
Yeah.
He was as good as gold. And Linda, I think he was very good with Linda, and Linda with he. I mean, I think they just hit it off as that character in that. And people again started reading things in as if he was going to be in the show more, but there was nothing to read in.
Oh yeah, it's just like a one-off and a very good
yeah. Sport. Incidentally, I never did anything. Someone was asking about Doomsday, which was shot down at Brian's house in Park Farm Cottage. No, I didn't do on that. I was away in America then, directing over there.
I wanted to ask you about Patrick Newell, who played Mother. What are your memories of him?
He was a nice man. He was a lot of fun. He would come out with outrageous suggestions, which you had to turn down.
Right.
But I mean, you know, because he never did it. But when we did the swimming pool sequence, I would not have been surprised if he'd have said, "Why don't I play this scene underwater?" I mean, he didn't do that, but he was always coming up with things to add to Mother. And most of them you had to turn down because they were just so ridiculous it wasn't true. But he was a lot of fun. A nice man again.
I was watching an episode of The Persuaders yesterday that Brian Clemens did the screenplay for, and he had Patrick Newell in it as a guest character. So obviously there must have been good relationships all around with
Patrick Newell works. It was. I don't think he was ever not working. I think he worked all his life. You know, it was always very good for prime ministers and parliamentary type people.
Yes, yes.
He had that marvelous voice.
Oh yeah, he's very a very striking person, very good character actor. What's your memories of the location for this episode? Obviously the lighthouse exteriors and things like that.
Not a lot. Not a lot. It's a long time ago. Come on, give me a break.
Just for a case, I mean,
I've been all over. I mean, the times I've shot the windmill at Fingis is nobody's business. I've shot it show after show. So many times I've shot those locations on different shows, whether it be the Saint, the Avengers, the Randall and Hopkirk's, Department S's. I mean, all the time. I even shot some of them in the period piece, Black Beauty. I mean, went back to those locations, but we obviously avoided the road and the television aerials and the other bits and pieces.
Yeah. Do you have a particular location that you really enjoyed in your career, or maybe the Avengers, a favourite location?
No, not really. I mean, they're all good adventures, and they're new things every day. No. I suppose going in places which other people weren't allowed to go in used to be fun. Mainly more so in America. I mean, I shot in Hoover Dam when I shot The Return of the Man from U.N.C.L.E. And to go in all the workings of Hoover Dam was absolutely incredible, to see all those turbines working. When other people can't go and see that. They only go on the tourist route, you know.
Oh yeah, that must be really, really special to be able to do. Just had a question come in from David. What are your memories of Rhonda Parker as mother's assistant?
Rhonda Parker, she was his mother's bodyguard, wasn't she?
Yes, to say that's what she was. Yes, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, the blonde.
Yeah.
Very, very tall. Very tall, legs that went on forever.
Yes.
If I remember, that is my memory of Rhonda. But a nice little actress, another nice lady. She, the pity that they didn't give her more, but it wasn't her place to have more. She was the mother's bodyguard. If mother was in, Rhonda was in.
Yeah. So it's a very good double act they have to together.
You see, the extraordinary thing about doing shows like The Avengers and most of the shows that I've done in my career, I'm always, when people say, what was so-and-so like and so-and-so like, everybody was very, very good with me. My actors were always good. I never had problems with actors, and they used to do what I wanted them to do, or I would do what they wanted me to do. They were all nice people. I didn't have ugly people around me. I was very lucky. I never had anyone ugly around me, ever. I mean, I had actors which I didn't, we had arguments, a lot of arguments. I mean, earlier we talked about Wilfred Brimley. Wilfred Brimley and I would fight over certain things when I did the series with him, Our House. And we would argue, but I would win in the end, and Wilfred used to laugh, and I used to laugh. And I love Wilfred Brimley. He was absolutely super. And we had a lot of fun together. And as I say, it must be a bit boring when everybody asks me, hoping for something, me say, oh, I didn't like him or I didn't like her. I had a great time with all my people. I really did.
Oh, good. Because I think, as you say, sometimes people are looking for a juicy story of, say, people not getting on. But I think for the most part, especially because most Avengers fans have met a lot of the stunt people, the actors. So what we really want to hear is exactly what you said, that they are lovely and they are the people that we hope they are in real life. So So that's I think what we want to hear, rather than say, or so and so was terrible, or whatever it might be.
Oh, absolutely. As I said last week again, Patrick McNee was a gem to work with, and Roger Moore. Well, Roger Moore was a dream. I mean, one of the nicest actors and people I've ever worked with. And Robert Wagner again, who interrupted our show last time.
That was a very nice moment.
But they're all lovely people to work with. I mean, really, and the ladies. I mean, I've worked with some beautiful ladies. And going back before I started directing, I mean, I worked with Elizabeth Taylor. I worked with Ava Gardner, Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney. I've worked with all these people when I was in the stunt business, and they've also. And I haven't got bad things to say about anyone. I really haven't.
And also that we have had a question from I think it's just appeared on our list again. From Ian, has asked about your stunt team. So people like Paul Weston, Rocky Taylor, any particular memories of those guys?
Oh, hey, great memories. They it's difficult to say, because they were all my stunt teams in those days, and the stunt people I brought into the industry. They were the ones that put me where I am. You know, they were great mates, great buddies. And when I became a stunt coordinator and used them all, and I was the sort of boss man who laid on everything, they always made me look good. Always made me look good. The Rocky Taylors, Denny Powell especially, and Greg Powell, Nosha Powell. I mean, all these people that I started off with, Paddy Ryan, Mo Kai Kai, Mickey Woods, they were the ones that took me and made me look as good as I am. Romo Gahara, Jerry Crampton. They were, Paul Weston did marvelous things for me on the Avengers, you know, like Rocky did. They're the ones that carried me along until I decided I wanted out, and I wanted behind the camera for sure. And without those making me look good, doing such good things for me and good stunts, which I took the credit for. I was the arranger. You know, their names weren't up there in those days. Stuntmen didn't get credits. People used to see DC do something incredible and they say, oh, Ray, that's marvelous. But I was the one who just dreamt it up. Paul Weston or Rocky did those things. All these guys put me in that league. Made it possible to make me give that transfer across as a writer and a director. So the stuntmen are the world for me. Joey Dunn, they are the world for me. They really are. Eddie Stacy. I mean, the list goes on. They were my bread and butter. I used to call them up. So tomorrow we got a job there. Come down next day. That Jerry Crampton, bring down the trampoline. I want 6 guys on trampolines. My name went on it. I was the stunt coordinator, but they were the ones who did it all. But I got the credit every time. So therefore, when I wanted to do second unit director, people remember all those things and say, yeah, give them a break.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Ray. One of the people that I was quite interested to know, because obviously everyone knows a lot about Brian Clemens and Albert Fennell to a degree, and obviously we mentioned Albert last time. One of the people that I didn't mention was Julian Wintel. Whether you had any memories of Julian? Oh
yeah, very well. I used to talk to Julian every so often because he used to like talking about the action. He used to come across to the stage, not very often because he was in the main block at ABBC and he walked on canes. He had walking canes. And he came across and he used to like to talk about the fight sequences, not interfere with them, but just saying, what are you going to do this week or anything like that? You know, is she going to climb a rope this week? What's going to happen? Nothing critical, but just conversational film stuff, you know. Incidentally, I see another one up, George Leach. I knew George Leach very well. I used George Leach many, many times. Good stuntman, another good stuntman. Jackie Cooper, another good stuntman. Les White. All the names are coming up now. People are remembering.
I think you mentioned Leslie Crawford last time as well. Again, another.
Les Crawford used to be Roger's double, do all the fights, but except when I was doing a fight with Roger, Les Crawford never doubled Roger when I was doing a fight with Roger, because Roger always wanted to do the fights with me because he knew he would never get hit. He hit me a few times, but he knew that I was good to work with, and they used to like doing fights with me, and he did it with a lot of other people, but mainly myself. But Les Crawford was his main stunt arranger, and then Frank Mayer was for a little while, I think. I'm not sure about that, but Frank Mayer used to be in the studio down there. You know, and a lot of them are forgotten. Bob Simmons is forgotten now. John Sullivan, Joe Powell, brilliant, fantastic stuntman. Joe Powell gave me a lot of jobs when I first came into the stunt business. Him and his brother Eddie. Joe was a knockout stuntman. John Sullivan, all good men.
I think certainly, but Bob Simmons is very famous for his work on the James Bond films. So I know that.
Who? Say again.
Bob Simmons. Bob
Simmons did the first of the Bond films. I think Paul Weston took over later, I think, and Jerry Crampton.
Did indeed. Other questions. Joyce has asked that there was a project a few years ago, around 2017, about a reboot of the series, but we've never heard anything since then. Would you still be interested in doing the Avengers? If Avengers came back, would you like to be a consultant? Would you watch it? Do you think it would work these days if they put it back?
Oh, it would come. It would come. It could come back, but it wouldn't. I don't think it would work because, you know, hey, I remember Steed and I remember Linda and Rig and Joe. I'm in that era, and I can't imagine it with young kids in it. When I say young kids, I'm talking about actors that are 20, 25. I can't imagine it working without that sophistication of a greater age.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. You know, I couldn't direct it anymore. I could not do the pace anymore. I'm still very fit. I'm okay. I'm 88 years of age. But it's hard work on the floor. When I used to do the Avengers in England, I had 10 days to shoot. I had 10 days to shoot. Randall Hock got 10 days to shoot. When I went to America for the same show, 1 hour, I was having to do it in 5 days and 6 days. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of stress you go through as a director, keeping on schedule, keeping on the money, with producers breathing down your neck. You know, why aren't you finished? Have you finished that scene? Have you finished that scene? It's a big pressure. I don't think I could, excuse me, stand up to that pressure at my age. It's a young man's world out there now. I really don't. Consultant, I wouldn't have anything to consult, really. It's all there on the screen. You can see what it was about.
Yeah. I mean, I think if it was to come back, maybe like Doctor Who came back, the same continuity, but with new characters rather than, because who in the right mind would cast somebody else as John Steed other than Patrick McNee? You could have somebody else who works for the ministry and that sort of thing. I don't think I would want them to raise the original shows. Like it didn't happen, I think that would be pretty very unrespectful, really.
Yeah. Someone's asking about Heart to Heart. Yeah, I had Patrick in Heart to Heart. Yeah, it was a good show. Nice show to direct. Heart to Heart was a good show to direct, a very good show. Again, all lovely people. But it was always fun to go to work on Heart to Heart. And always lots of laughs, especially with Robert Wagner.
Oh, yes, yeah. We just sort of seen the scene where Tara's, the motorbike chases Tara and she falls off the cliff. And obviously that was I take that was a dummy that was used for that particular scene of her falling down to the water rather than the stunt person. No,
that Johnny Huff shot that.
Yeah.
That was a dummy.
The dummy, yeah.
Well, you didn't see the landing.
No. I mean, obviously, if you had more time and the money and stuff, you might have perhaps done a combination of a dummy stunt and, or but I suppose that's one limitation of TV.
But Philip, it wasn't necessary.
No, yeah.
You got the message. You knew what happened. You didn't even have to see the land in it. It happened.
I think it works perhaps better that way to leave her, because then of course you don't know what happens to her. You don't want to see her immediately swim off, so it gives that little jeopardy for the rest of the episode.
There's a very well-known song which I'm sure you know. That's entertainment.
I want to talk about the music for this episode, because again it's got a very distinctive score, and obviously Howard Blake came in to do some of this series. Do you happen to know why Howard came in with Laurie Johnson to do the series, and did you know Howard at all?
No, I was great friends with Laurie, and I used to sit on a lot of music placing with him, but no. It was always down to Laurie. Laurie always had something. He knew exactly when to go under, when to go over, exactly what to do.
Sorry, Ray, one second, just got a technical issue.
Technical issue? You keep breaking up. That's your technical issue today.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening really. So do you have any other main memories of All Done with Mirrors that we haven't already gone through?
What was my lovely elderly lady's name?
Oh, yes. Nora Nicholson?
Yeah.
Emily, yeah.
I loved her. She was super. So did Linda. She was so much fun to play a scene with. You see, and that's why I'm talking about the English character actors. When she came on the set to play her first scene, we did a rehearsal, and the characters, the way she decided to play it was on the spot. First time, I didn't have to say, well, maybe you should feel that so and so and so and so, or you were born in nothing at all. She was right on the nail straight away. She fell into this mysterious thing about mirrors and all knows what. She was a dream.
She has that lovely introduction holding the secateurs and
yeah. You think, oh my God, here she goes.
Yeah. And the gentleman who plays the colonel in the lighthouse again is excellent.
Yeah.
Well, the guy posing to be the colonel, I should say.
Saying about Laurie Johnson, yeah, that's correct about Laurie coming back in with Brian and Albert, but Laurie wound up finishing. Actually, I spoke with Laurie just over a week ago.
Oh, is he well?
Yeah, he's hanging in there. He's hanging in there. He gave up the farm and he lives in Boreham Wood now, in a condo.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Do you remember the cinematographer Alan Hume who worked on this episode?
Oh yeah, very well. I worked an awful lot with Alan Hume, and I took Alan Hume with me to Tokyo to do Shirley's World with Shirley MacLaine. I learned an awful lot off of Alan Hume, and he's got very talented sons as well. They're probably still in the industry.
Yeah.
When they were working with me, they were focus pullers and that, Mike Thrift was a camera operator, a focus puller. But no, Alan Hume, I learned a lot off of Alan Hume. He did, as I say, he did Avengers with me. And then I took him over to Tokyo, and he went to France with me on the new Avengers. Good man, good for cinematographer. And Paul Beeson was a good cinematographer, and I learned an awful lot from him.
And Philip Levine was the story consultant on this one. Again, would you have had much to do with
Oh yeah, I used to see Philip a lot. Yeah. Philip Levine and Brian were quite close.
I'll just have a look at some of the questions that I've received. Well, we're currently watching the famous Fall Down the Stairs at the moment, and again, it's very very seamless in its editing.
What's that?
We're just watching the Fall Down the Stairs at the moment. A great sequence. Oh yes, so Joyce has asked, have you been in France lately? The fan base is still as big as it originally was.
I don't know. I haven't been on anything in France for a long time now, but it was last time I did a thing in France. I was doing two things. I went over and shot the Highlander, the series. We shot it in Paris.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I did an Avengers thing there. And it's surprising how many fans there came to the lecture and the talk, as I didn't speak any French, you know. The series out there was called Le Chapeau, the hat.
Yeah.
But they were big fans in France. We shot the New Avengers there. Yeah, we shot the New Avengers there and in Canada, in Toronto.
Oh yes, yes. So in terms of encountering Avengers fans, I take you've come across fans in France and Germany. Is there any particular country you thought I didn't think the Avengers was popular out here? Did you anything that sort of strikes you?
No. No, everywhere that I went, most people knew the Avengers. And I was surprised how big it was in America when I first went over there.
Just had a question from Simon. Can Ray share any thoughts about the New Avengers? Was it a happy experience? Any particular special memories? I think his work on it is stunning. As Brian Clemens said, every shot could be a poster. So, nice comment.
Well, Simon, you're right. I mean, share your thoughts with it. And New Avengers was a new show. It was brilliant. And a breath of spring came into it with Joanne Lumley and Gareth Hunt. Patrick took more of a back seat, but he was still very prominent in it. And it was a great show to move on to. I mean, none of us expected it for a start. We didn't realize a New Avengers was coming. And then it did. And as you know, I was in right from the beginning on that one and worked a lot of shows.
Yeah.
And traveled around with it. As I say, I produced it in Canada and directed it in Canada. Then I went to France the same. It was a good show, good experience. Joe Lumley was, what can I say? Joe Lumley was Joe Lumley. She was so good in it. Gareth was good. Sadly, we lost Gareth, as you know.
Yeah.
But it was a great show to work on. Avengers was a great part of my life, and the Avengers started my if it hadn't been for the Avengers, I wouldn't be sitting here where I am now. Very happy and very content with 300 shows under my belt. The Avengers put me there. The Avengers was it. The first show that really broke the surface for me. And I told the story last week of Targets, how that got me on the track to direct in America.
Yeah.
I've only got good things to say about it and all the people in it.
And obviously, this was the last series of the classic run. At what point did you or the crew know that this was kind of going to be it, that the show was in trouble? Was it?
Which show was in trouble? New Avengers?
The Avengers itself. So with obviously the last series with Linda, obviously having those problems at the beginning, but then obviously settling down with Brian and Elle returning. At what point did you kind of know or not?
We started to drop numbers. It dropped numbers, and it dropped numbers. It's not important the numbers in America, in England. It's that we were dropping numbers in America. As you know, we were the first show to ever be networked in America on prime time.
Yeah.
And we gradually slipped and slipped because the world was changing, thoughts were changing, and it went down. And when it went down to certain numbers, which people grabbed onto, it came to an end. It's the fate of practically every show. Some shows we watch, as you know, and we think, God, that's good, and then you find out it's been cancelled.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not taking numbers. If it's not taking numbers, they're not going to put up the money.
Yeah, I suppose, show business being the more important of the two words, and if it doesn't sell, it gets scrapped.
Well, many, many years ago, I sat on a plane with a man called J. Walter Thompson, who was a big executive, an ad man. He had his own business, J. Walter Thompson. They were very big, very, very big. Myself and Les White did the testing of seatbelts in Dagenham on Ford. When Ford decided to put seatbelts in their cars, this was so long ago. Les White and I took on the job of crashing cars and testing seatbelts.
Yeah.
And we did it. And I met J. Walter Thompson, the advertising man. And J. Walter Thompson said to me, two things he said to me. One, he said, move to America and you'll be rich. He said, stay in England, you'll starve. And I was just a stuntman, and he knew me as a stuntman.
Yeah.
And then later on, I was on a plane with him again. He and Tony Curtis, we were sitting on a plane together, and we were talking about the numbers. And I was saying about the Avengers, I said, the Avengers was very big in Los Angeles and New York and London and Rome and Paris. And he said, that doesn't matter. He said, it's of no interest. He said, whether London, Rome, and Los Angeles. He says, we want you to be of interest to the people you fly over when you go to Los Angeles. He said, all those towns you fly over, they're the ones who buy the cornflakes. They're the ones who buy the soap flakes. They're the ones who buy the bars of soap. They're the people we're interested in, not the people in Los Angeles. They've got it all. Not the people in New York. They've got it all. They watch what they want. But we want the people in the sticks to watch this show. And if you lose the numbers in the sticks, you're losing a lot of revenue. They're not buying the products.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Yeah.
No, it's all about numbers. So when the numbers dropped on the Avengers eventually, which they had to because of the new shows keep being brought out, the Kung Fu's and whatever, and America in those days was flooding the market with shows. I was doing so many shows, BJ and the Bear, the Hardy Boys, Airwolf, and all these shows. Airwolf was later. And so the numbers are going to drop on the Avengers, whether it be Diana Rigg, Linda, or Joe. The numbers are going to drop after a while, and if they drop, then money's not going to be there.
Oh yeah. It's a part of the process, isn't it? The episode just finished now, and I was just thinking about the end tags that the Avengers was obviously very famous for. So at the end of this episode, Steve cooks a steak in his car, and they have dinner in the lovely field with the yellow flowers. Did you enjoy doing the end tags for episodes?
No, the last part I missed.
Oh, did you enjoy filming the end tags for the episodes, because they were normally not part of the main plot, so just like the little end tags?
Oh yeah, they were always fun to do. Always fun, and they never used to come up the tags until practically you finished the script, and Brian would come down with something.
Am I right that the reason for those was because there was more ad breaks in America, and they wanted people to not turn over at the end of the story, so they came back after the ad break, they put a little extra scene in to keep the audience there? Is that why you had those end tags?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Talking about the Space 1999 in America, I used Martin Landau, as they will probably remember, in the Return of the Man from Uncle. No, I lie. The Return of the Bionic Man and Bionic Woman.
Oh yes.
I use Martin in that. And see, Martin finished Space 1999, went back to America, and virtually could not get arrested until someone realized that this man was a brilliant actor. And after that, he got nominated in Academy Awards because Martin Landau is a brilliant actor.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
I first worked with him when I doubled him on North by Northwest. But no, that's the only one from that show that I actually worked with in America who came over.
Yeah.
The only one.
We did actually have somebody, and I'll find his name in a moment, but we did have somebody who wanted to ask you about North by Northwest and what your memories of that film was, perhaps a couple of highlights.
What was the question?
So what your memories of working on North by Northwest? So have something that particularly sticks out?
Oh, a lot sticks out on that. I mean, it was a great show to work on. I doubled Carrie. Well, Paul Stader was the stunt coordinator, and Carrie's double at times. I did the drive-in for Carrie in Central Park on the second unit, and I did this stuff on Lincoln's nose. I did the fall off Lincoln's nose, but that was in the studio. We did this all at MGM. And I did the rear gunner in the plane when it crashed into the tanker. One of the fun things on that, when we did the sequence down in Bakersfield with Carrie running through the corn and the plane, we were diving at him. The prop department went down the day before, a day and a half before, and all the corn that was there was no corn. It was the wrong time of the year.
Oh.
But it's supposed to be a cornfield. So the prop department brought corn and they stuck it on sticks. And we made this cornfield. I didn't make the props department, the set dressing did it, because Carrie and I were on our way down from LA. And they put all the sticks in to make the cornfield so Carrie could break through them and throw himself down what everybody knows. And let me go back a little bit. Have I got time to tell a story?
Yeah, about so much you want, yes.
When Carrie and I went down there to Bakersfield from New York, we went to Los Angeles, we went to Bakersfield, and we went out and we had a motorhome for Carrie, obviously, and I was with him. And it was baking hot, so hot it wasn't true. And everybody was getting suntan. People had scarves on their head. But coming from London and England, I wanted a tan. So sitting in Carrie's motorhome, I changed into a pair of shorts and thongs to go out and wander around before I went to work with Paul Stader. And when I opened the motorhome door to walk out, I looked at the crew, and a lot of them had their shirts off and shorts. But they all had cowboy boots on. And I looked at them. I thought, well, why they got cowboy boots? That's ridiculous. They're going to have white marks right up their legs. The suns, they were not going to get sunburnt on their legs. I thought that was stupid. Paul Stader came across with cowboy boots, but he had long trousers on. I said, why have they got cowboy boots on? I had thongs. He said, come with me. So we walked over to the edge of this corn which we planted and the dirt hills, ruts of dirt. And he kicked once, then he kicked twice. And on the third kick, this great big tarantula came out of the dirt. I went straight back into the motor and I went to wardrobe department and borrowed a pair of cowboy boots. Yeah. So now get back to the other part of the story with Carrie. Hitchcock worked out with Carrie what they were going to do, and Carrie was going to break through the corn and run through it. And some idiot or some clever guy said, yeah, Carrie, we planted that corn over the last 2 days. So Carrie looked at him and he said, yeah. So he said, tell me, he said, did anyone look in there to see if there was any snakes? So no one said anything. And he said, I bet you there's snakes in there. He said, if you put that corn down, the snakes are going to be in there. He said, I'm not going in there. So they had to take all this corn out, rake the ground.
Yeah.
And sure enough, there was a lot of rattlers in there.
Oh, right.
A lot of rattlers. And we chose a part and put plastic up around it was about 11 foot by 11 foot for him to do the fall when he ducked down, because he too was very worried about rattlesnakes in there. He said, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going in there. There's all the snakes living in there. I'm not going there."
No, very sensible.
That's one of my best memories of North by Northwest, with Carrie doing that.
Well, that's a lovely memory, Ray. Thanks for sharing that one with us. Janet had a question. Well, you did cover one stunt that was quite difficult in terms of you trying to get out of a tank. So we won't talk about that one now. But did you have any other stunts in your career that meant you had to take time off to recover, or were you fairly sort of lucky in that regard?
No, I was lucky enough to get away with anything. I mean, Tom Jones, I broke both ankles on Tom Jones when I doubled Albert coming out of the Diane Gilento's bedroom window onto the balcony. I did that jump off the balcony, and I did the jump out of the window onto the balcony. I broke my left ankle, and then I did the jump over the balcony down onto the concrete or the marble slabs, which was about 18 feet below, holding my clothes as Albert Finney, and I broke my right ankle.
Oof.
And 3 days later, because Tony Richards and I had a love-hate thing going on, I did the jump from Albert's horse onto Susanna's horse when the horse runs away. So if you remember in the movie, Susanna York's horse runs away, and Albert, Tom Jones, chases her and jumps from his horse onto hers. Mm. Well, I did that with 2 broken ankles, but the plaster was painted brown to look like boots. Mm. And when I got to pass the camera, after I brought the horse to a standstill, I had Denny Powell and Les White standing there to lift me off the horse because I couldn't put my feet on the ground without being on crutches.
Oh dear.
So I was laid up for a while, but I carried on the rest of the movie with the help of all the other stuntmen again, and finished it. But I got busted up both ankles on that. I broke toes on another job at Chelsea Cloisters in London. Mm. All silly things which stuntmen do. A lot of the other stuntmen have done a lot more dangerous things than me.
Oh yeah. I suppose it's part of the job, isn't it? Sort of the odd injury, but very impressive.
Yeah, but if you know what you're doing and you're careful, you don't get hurt. You know, people say they're not scared. Scared's not the word. It's to be cautious. And if you're cautious, you look at all the things that could go wrong and make sure it's not going to go wrong for you. If you go there bravado and say, "Don't worry, I'll do that," and you just throw yourself over or turn the car over without working things out, then you're asking for trouble. But stuntmen are not like that. The good stuntmen are the ones that have survived through the years, carry on because they know exactly what they're doing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had a question from Linda, who wanted to know what your thoughts were on the changes in the industry. So from the 50s, 60s, and obviously to present day. Do you think, obviously there's obviously technical advantages, there's visual effects and that sort of thing. Workplace safety's obviously changed, but do you think that the industry has improved, or do you think it was better when you were working in it? What are your thoughts on how it's evolved?
Oh, when I started off in the industry, it was a dreamland. I mean, it was absolutely marvelous, and no one's going to have those days anymore. Those days are gone. Those days of the entertainment industry, the big scenes, the wonderful things, because now so much of it's taken it over by technology. Yeah. Green screen and all that. The green screen is one of the worst things that's happened for some men. I mean, so many actors now can stand on the ground and you can make it look as if they're 50 feet in the air. It's upset it for the stunt artists. They are artists, all the stuntmen. But it never go back to those days when we did the big extravaganza movies and all those sort of things and the fun things. I mean, when I remember when I went to America, I did a show called Have Gun Will Travel. And we did a chase. Indians not the Red Indians, the renegade Indians, chasing the good guys. And the stunt coordinator, a man called Johnny Dayheim, good stunt coordinator. He was the stunt coordinator on Spartacus, and that's how I got onto Spartacus, because of Johnny. But he had us dressed as these renegades, and I lie not. The camera was set up facing in a certain direction. I can't remember where, and I think it was 12 of us on horseback, would ride by the camera, go round the camera, and on the back of a truck, there was all hats and coats and different things. And as you went round the camera, you took your hat off, threw it off, pick another hat up or another jacket, put it on and rode round again. So it looked at about 50 of us riding round. There was only 12 of us. I mean, it's the most ridiculous thing. But when you saw it on the film, it was marvelous. I mean, there was all these guys chasing, and you thought, God, they hired a lot of stuntmen and a lot of wranglers that day. Yeah. And they didn't. There was only 12 of us, and we were riding around the camera over and over again.
I suppose it's that. I suppose
all those days they were the fun days in our industry, way back. And those days, I don't think are ever going to happen again. It's not out there. The world is not the same. Cleopatra was an incredible thing for me to be able to direct that second unit on that. That's never going to happen again to me or to anyone else, I doubt, because they do it with green screen. All that stuff can be done with green screen, or most of that stuff can be done with green screen.
Oh yeah, yes, it's a great shame for sure. So the second part to Linda's question was, obviously modern productions seem to have a lot more people involved, but behind the scenes. I assume it's because of the technology compared to the old school nature of, say, things like the Avengers and shows like that.
Yeah. Tell me, you've got messages coming up here. Well, the Cary Grant impression, we know I do that all the time.
Yes.
Because I love you. I think you're marvelous, all a lot of you. You're a great audience. Did I know Jenny Remy?
Oh, Remy Julian, the famous stunt car driver, wasn't he?
Yes. No, I didn't know.
Did a lot of work on the Bond films as well. So I'm just going to have a little look. I've got a question from Ian that emailed to me. What was the most difficult stunt or memorable stunt you did on the Avengers?
Was one of, I can't remember the name of it, one of your viewers will. I did a forward somersault through a 2-foot by 2-foot manhole cover.
That's no Town No Return. I think that might be.
Really, it was very difficult to go from a standing still to a forward somersault and go through a 2-by-2 hole. And it was very difficult. I really banged my back up on it quite badly.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most difficult things I think I ever did on that show. Well, I did another one, a dead fall with a bottle of champagne in my hand, but I had to fall boom like that. I couldn't knuckle my knees, and the champagne broke, and I split my hand open with the bottle of champagne. Alan Hume was the cameraman on that. He was the grabbed my wrist to stop it pumping blood.
Oh,
Town of No Return. Thank you.
I think it was Jeremy Burnham. I think you're probably doubling for. I think he was the character that went through the hole.
I know. And there was another one. I remember that Brian. This was a Brian stunt. He wanted it. It was one where we were in a railway train, all the way through it, a station, and I can't remember. He wanted me to try to hit a guy with a sledgehammer, miss, and do a forward somersault, still holding the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And I did it, but that I got hurt on as well. But for some reason, he didn't want me to let go of the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
I missed the guy, And as I miss him, I could do a somersault.
Yeah.
They were all tricky, silly things like that. That was Brian Clemens for you.
We've had a question from Paul. He starts off by saying you can always tell your episodes because of the energy of your direction. The shots always seem to have movement. Do you think that having a background in stunts has it helped you when you became a director?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, mainly helped me because of knowing the camera work, knowing where to put the camera, how to put it there, and that was very important. So it helped me no end, very much so.
Oh, fantastic.
I see the thing about Honor Blackman. I never worked with Honor Blackman as a stunt arranger. When the series started, black and white at Teddington, Doug Robinson was the stunt coordinator on it then. Another good stunt man.
Yeah.
And his brother Joe Robinson, but Doug was the one. But she did judo.
Yeah.
She didn't do karate. She did judo, kung fu. He had her doing judo, which again she was very good at. Very good at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Had a question from David. Was the working atmosphere on the set from the Avengers and the New Avengers, did they feel different as shows, or was it kind of old crew back together and it felt the same, or did it have a different feel?
No, you wouldn't have known anything would have changed except for 2 actors. You wouldn't have known anything would have changed. Nothing changed. The crew was there. The crew knew everything, what to do. All the art department were the same. Laurie Johnson was back. I mean, it was all good, and it was as if it hadn't stopped. Except Patrick was the key figure. He was the anchor.
Yeah.
And we just went around, and that was it. And that was it. Gareth came in beautifully. Gareth was the odd man out because Gareth always felt that there shouldn't have been another man in it, but he carried on. And as you know, it was a success until it ran its course.
Because obviously, with the second series, obviously going to Canada, there was obviously some money problems with the budget. And I was talking to Sid a few days ago, and she was saying that she wasn't on the second series of the New Avengers because they didn't have the money for a fight arranger at that point. Was the second series of the New Avengers difficult because of those financial problems?
Well, they took Canadian money. They had to take Canadian money and French money.
Yeah.
Canon Plus. They put up money. Both of those people put up money. That's why we had to go to those countries to shoot that. But mainly wasn't the problem in those cases with Sid for France or for Canada, because she was not allowed to work in France or Canada because of the unions.
Oh, right.
I had stunt coordinator from Canada and stunt coordinator from France. The one from France was a pain in the backside. But she couldn't work over there. Like we had to get permits for Patrick and Gareth and Johanna to go into the country to work because they wanted all Canadian actors in it, and the French wanted all French Canadians in it. I mean, one of the episodes in France, I shot, but they've got a French director's name on it because of union.
Yeah, this sounds quite a nightmare, really.
Yeah, well, that happens everywhere. I mean, we were the same in England. We wouldn't let American actors come in at certain times unless they had enough audience pulling power to bring them in, like a big star coming to do a show. But you couldn't bring an American stuntman in or an American walk-on artist in. Equity would not allow it.
I had a question from Jan. Incidentally, Jan was the guy who asked us about North by Northwest earlier. Jan just wanted to know why you wanted to get into stunts in the first place, and do you remember what the first stunt you ever did was?
Yes, I was in the army, attached to the Royal Artillery as an army physical training instructor, and I was very good acrobat. I was good gymnast. All those things I was good at. When I left the army with certificates saying how good I was as a gymnast and a teacher. And I went to the London County Council to get a job in a school. And when I went to London County Council said, great, we like all these certificates. What other subject do you teach? Well, we're now talking 1951 and 52 when I come back from Korea.
Yeah.
Teachers in those days in English schools either taught PT and arithmetic, PT and art, PT and music. They never employed a person just to teach PT, physical training. That didn't happen. You had to teach two subjects. So I couldn't get a job. The only job I got was an evening class in Merton Park, near Merton Park Studios, at the youth centre at 7 and 6 an hour, 7 shillings and 6pence an hour, 3 nights a week. It was useless, absolutely no use to me at all. So I had all these skills of acrobats, parallel bar and horizontal bar, and I couldn't get a job. That was it. So I became a driver, a chauffeur at that stage. Sorry, that's not the question she's asked. When I went to America with Carrie, we would Carrie because I could talk like him, and we became great friends. But Carrie's stunt coordinator, stunt double, a guy called Paul Stader, used to live on Malibu Beach. And I brought a small bungalow on Malibu Beach as well. I was lucky enough to be able to get it. And I had a horizontal bar fixed up on the sand because I used to surf most of the day and play around on a horizontal bar. And they were doing a series out there called Joe Doakes Behind the 8 Ball. It was a short, I don't know, like 4 or 5 minutes short. It used to be in between the main events. And they had a stunt on it where Joe Doakes, by the way, was a guy, everything always went wrong. No matter what he did, it always went wrong. He invented a lighter, a gas lighter, and he couldn't put it out. Every time he put the top down, the top burnt away. Everything he did went wrong. Clever man, but went wrong. So they had this stunt where he's a gymnast and he's on the horizontal bar going over and over and over, and he can't stop, and he lets go and goes into the audience. Well, they had umpteen stuntmen in Los Angeles. They were just at the time of the Stuntmen's Association being formed, which is another story. They had so many stuntmen who sit in the audience and let a ton of bricks fall on them. It didn't worry them, but they didn't have a stuntman who could do kipovers on a horizontal bar. So Paul Stader said to Blake Edwards, who was directing it, said, listen, there's this guy on this beach, this English guy, he's doing it all day long outside the place on the sand there. So Blake Edwards said, see what he said. So Paul said, you want to do a stunt? So I said, yeah, I want to do a stunt, because to get in the stunt business was very hard. Very hard. You had to know someone who was in it. You had to become the Screen Actors Guild. It was difficult. So anyway, I did the stunt. I did the thing, and I let go and went into the audience and landed on the stuntmen, which to this day I remember was Cy Gorse, Freddie Zandar, Paul Stader, Paul Baxley, were the 3 guys that I hit mainly, and I can't remember the other one, Charlie Horvat. And so I did that stunt. 3 weeks later, Paul said, you want to double him again? He said, I want you to jump a tennis net, catch your foot on the net, and go flat on your face after playing tennis. So I did that. And that was my entrance into the stunt business. I had to get a Screen Actors Guild card, which I wanted like crazy, and I got it. And about 9 weeks after that, the Stuntman's Association was founded, and I became a founder member of the Stuntman's Association in Los Angeles. And now I'm, if you go on the internet, I'm an honorary member of the Stuntman's Association of America. So that's how I went in, by accident, but it did me very, very well. But I knew very early on that I really wanted to go behind the camera, not in front of it.
I mean, you obviously enjoyed the occasional in front of the camera with Roger Moore on The Saint, for example.
Oh yeah. Well, I did a lot of acting as well. I did a lot of acting. I mean, I did some nice acting jobs. Loneliness and a Long Distance Runner was a nice thing for me. You know, I played Billy Clay in that, one of the nasty officers in that. That was one thing, and I did all the stunt coordinating on Loneliness and a Long Distance Runner. And I played in Ghost Squad. I played Billy, again, same name, Billy Clay in that, which Brian wrote in. I was in a lot of those episodes, and I often played parts in The Saint with Roger. I did quite a few Saints with Roger. No, I used to like acting, yeah, absolutely, but it wasn't my forte. Wasn't my forte. Stand back behind the camera, yes, but not the other one.
That's a great question, Jan. Thanks for that one. Jan also wants to know if you had any particular memory of Department S.
Not really. Peter Wingard.
I think he was quite an interesting character from what I understand.
Peter was all right. He was a child, you know. He a good actor, but he used to go over the top sometimes with some of the things that he'd work out for the scenes and one thing and another. Joel Fabiani was good. Rosemary Nicholson was excellent, but Peter was a lovely guy, but he used to get carried away. I remember one scene I played with him. I directed with him. They found a body on the beach. I think Rosemary Nicholson found this body on the beach, or is called to a body on the beach. And we're shooting it on the stage in ABPC Studios, Boreham Wood. So we've got a piece of beach, probably as big as my study, 20 by 20, something like that, with sand, a deck chair or whatever we had. And story-wise, the scene before it, we're with Peter Wingard in his hotel room or chalet, which is way up the beach, with a library shot down to the ocean. So the ocean was something like, I don't know, nearly a quarter of a mile down the beach, beautiful beach on the library stuff. Now we cut to the studio, and Peter inside is drinking a glass of scotch, which he drank all the time. Jason King always drank scotch. Yeah. And he had his cuffs, like I wear my cuffs. He has these cuffs back. And now Rosemary or Joel Fabiani calls him to this body on the beach, which I should say, story-wise, would be an 8-minute walk.
Yeah.
So I got the camera on the body and Rosemary and Joel on the beach kneeling down at the body. And Peter Wingard's feet walk into shot because he's been sent for. And he walks into shot, and I pan up to him and he starts the dialogue. Well, when we did the rehearsal, Frankie Watts was the cameraman. I was viewing through the camera. Tony White was the operator. I've got the camera. So I see Peter's feet. I pan up, and Peter's standing there with this glass of whiskey in his hand and his cuffs turned back. And I said to them, Peter, hold it. Why have you got this glass of whiskey? He said, I always have a glass of whiskey. I said, but you've just walked all the way from your chalet, a quarter of a mile away, all the way down this beach to view a dead body, and you're still holding a glass of whiskey. He said, well, that's what Jason King would do. So I nearly wanted to give up, but I didn't. I said, well, you're not doing it in this. I said, because it's bloody ridiculous. I said, you're not going to have the glass. And he went mad. He wanted the glass of whiskey, and he was going to call Monty Berman and all that. In the end, he gave in and did it without the glass of whiskey. But that was Peter. You know, he was his own worst enemy sometimes.
No, it's a great story. That's wonderful, Ray. I did have somebody did ask a question. David asked about working on Return of the Saints and whether do you think Ian Ogilvy would have made a good 007 at some point?
With who?
David has asked, what was it like working on this Return of the Saint with Ian Ogilvy, and would he have made a good 007?
Oh, I think absolutely, yeah. I think he would have done a 007 without any, because he's a very sophisticated actor, Ian. Ian, that's why Ian took over the Saints so easily, because he was so good. I mean, he was the character like Roger had been. I mean, he was tongue in cheek again. He was cheeky. And Ian's always been, as far as I'm concerned, an underrated actor. He's a bloody good actor.
Yeah.
Very good actor. Yeah, I think, come to think of it, he would have been, he would have passed off very nicely as a Bond.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree completely. I'm just scrolling through the chat to see what other questions we have. Michael asked, obviously with these, there's the green heavy color palette in All Down with Mirrors. He really likes. Obviously on the 60 shows, it's very much the Avengers said Avengers in color, obviously transferring from black and white to color. What are your thoughts on the cinematography, production design? With mind to the fact that the show is now in color. Was it a temptation just to sort of make it like a rainbow on screen, that sort of thing?
No, it was picture book. I agree. It was picture book, or biscuit tin, as they used to call it. But it was a relief from us to go, or not from me because I wasn't with the black and white, but it was a relief for everybody when it went to color, because it meant we were up there in time being as it should be. We weren't left behind with black and white. You know, to stay in black and white like we did, I don't know, Red Cap and things like that down at Teddington Lock. To come into, when you moved into color, you were sort of saying something, this is color. And you were up there amongst the big boys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we would have never got accepted into America in black and white for a start. Ever. It wouldn't have happened. They would have never picked it up as a prime time show in black and white ever.
I suppose it's also why the series went from videotape to film. Again, American audience required it to be on 35 mil.
That's right. But everything was what they're 35 mil then. 16 mil sometimes you used to get away with it for shooting second unit and have it blown up, but not very often. Not very often.
We had, I think, a question because I think I was talking about Howard Blake coming on to the Avengers, and I think Ian has said why Howard was brought on. I think obviously because Laurie wasn't on it originally when Brian and Albert were dismissed at the beginning of Series 6. So I think what Ian said was Laurie was committed to a stage musical, and therefore Howard had to be brought in to do some of the work on that. So thank you for that comment. So I think there's anything else worth mentioning. I think we've probably gone through most of the questions, to be honest.
I think you've done everything.
Yeah, I think we've had a good variety of questions. So I think I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. I think we're pretty good though. Joris has said, hi Ray, we met at the 50th anniversary in Chichester. I loved your panel, and the moment when you analysed the fight scene from Game and said that scene in particular represented the very best of the stunt people from the production. Can you take this back again, describing the making of that scene? Many thanks, and Joyce is based in France. Do you remember?
What scene?
Fight scene in the episode Game.
Can't remember it, Joyce. I can't remember it.
I'm just trying to remember it myself. Maybe.
I did so many fight scenes, Joyce.
If you want to give us some more information, Joyce, about the actual scene, just refresh our memories in the chat, and maybe we come back to that one briefly at the end. Is there anything else in the meantime to mention? Oh yeah, so Piers says that the fight scene was with the men in the dice numbered costumes in game with the huge hourglass.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't me.
Oh,
it was Joe Dunn.
Yes.
Joe Dunn did that one because I was directing then. I think I wasn't on that episode. That was another director, and it was Joe Dunn that would have been the coordinator on that. I'm pretty sure. Sid Child may remember it. I don't remember that. I don't remember. But Bob Fuse directed it.
Bob Fuse, yes. Someone just said that. Bob, yeah.
Where?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. Piers has said that. Yeah, Bob Fuse directed that one. But
so that would have been Joey Dunn that did the fight arranging on that. And if it was Linda, Sid would have probably been doubling her.
I think probably I think that's probably all the questions we have. Unless anybody's got any last minute questions they want to put to Ray, but I think.
I think they all want to go to bed now. 10 to 10 there, right?
Oh yeah, we have. Well, I must admit, Ray, it has been a wonderful evening. It has really just flown by, and I want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us, obviously, for having so many wonderful questions. Is there any final thoughts, Ray, that you'd like to make either about the episode or anything before we go?
No, I just thank you, all the fans, and I think you're all marvelous that you still are fans of the Avengers, and I love you all. So be safe and stay well as we can do with this, what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
if you get very, very bored, read a book by Raymond Austin.
Yes, here we are now.
Keep Running or Die would make a great movie, I think. I've been told it would.
Yeah.
But they're all good thrillers. People who like a thriller, it's good.
Well, I must have just reading the first few chapters of Home for the Holiday. It just sounded right out of a really good TV series, you know, or the first 10 minutes of a big film. So they certainly have that visual, you know, TV filmatic quality. So
great. Well, as I say, please read the books and let me know what you think. If you like them or not, should I keep doing it or should I not?
Oh well, I think if I'm speaking for myself, keep it up, Ray. They're lovely books.
Okay.
Very well written indeed. So thanks again to everybody that's joined us. Thanks, Ray, again for spending so much time with us talking about the Avengers and your wonderful career. I very much enjoyed it and very much appreciate you spending the time with me this evening. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care, and maybe we'll catch up sometime soon.
Okay, God bless everyone. Be safe.
You too, Ray. Thank you very much.
I love you. I think you're all marvelous. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Ray. You're marvelous too.